After a terrible date, the waitress whispered, "I would have stayed." That changed everything. Zara wiped down the counter for the third time that evening. Her movements precise and calculated like everything else in her life. The blue tint of her skin hidden beneath carefully applied makeup that made her appear almost human in the dim lighting of the diner. She'd been working at Rosie's diner for 6 months now, observing these strange creatures called humans, studying their behaviors and determining whether they deserved a place among the civilized species of the galaxy. Her people, the Kelvorians, were known throughout the star systems as the most logical and advanced race. They had conquered emotions centuries ago, viewing feelings as primitive weaknesses that held back true progress. Zara had been sent to Earth as a cultural observer. Her mission was simple: watch humans interact and decide if they were worthy of joining the Galactic Council. So far, she was not impressed. Humans seemed ruled by their emotions, making illogical decisions based on feelings rather than facts. They cried over trivial matters, laughed at inappropriate times, and formed attachments that only brought them pain. To Zara, it all seemed terribly inefficient. The bell above the door chimed and Zara looked up from her methodical cleaning. A young couple entered. The man held the door open with a nervous smile while the woman walked past him without acknowledgement. Already absorbed in her phone, they took a booth near the window and Zara approached with her notepad. The man, perhaps in his mid-30s with kind eyes and grease-stained hands that suggested manual labor, smiled warmly at her. The woman barely glanced up. Zara took their order with professional detachment, noting the man's name was Jake when his companion finally addressed him with obvious irritation. Over the next hour, Zara found herself watching their table more than she should have. The woman, Melissa, was performing what humans called a terrible date. She criticized everything Jake said, mocked his job as a mechanic, called his stories boring, and spent more time on her phone than engaging in conversation. Jake tried repeatedly to salvage the evening. He asked about her interests, complimented her thoughtfully, and listened attentively when she bothered to speak. But Melissa only grew more dismissive. At one point, she actually laughed at him when he mentioned he enjoyed reading science fiction novels. Zara felt something strange stirring in her chest, something her training had not prepared her for in Kelvorian society. Such disrespect would result in immediate social exile. The offending party would be cast out and never spoken to again. Yet Jake simply absorbed each insult with patience and continued treating Melissa with kindness. When the meal ended, Melissa stood abruptly and announced she was leaving. She did not offer to pay or even properly say goodbye. She simply walked out while texting someone, probably already arranging a better evening. Jake sat there for a moment, his shoulders sagging slightly. Then he caught Zara's eye and smiled apologetically. He paid the full bill without complaint and left a generous tip despite the uncomfortable evening. Zara watched him count out the money carefully. Clearly someone who worked hard for every dollar. Yet he gave freely even after being treated poorly. As Jake stood to leave, something unprecedented happened. Zara felt her carefully constructed protocols crumbling. Her Kelvorian training screamed at her to maintain cover and observe silently, but something stronger pushed her forward. She approached his table quickly, her heart doing something irregular in her chest. Jake looked up surprised as she leaned down slightly and whispered words that felt foreign on her tongue. "I would have stayed," she said quietly, her accent slipping slightly, revealing the unusual cadence of her true voice. Jake blinked, studying her face with those kind eyes. He seemed to really see her for the first time, noticing the slight differences in her features that makeup could not quite hide. The two bright eyes, the skin that seemed to shimmer under certain angles. "Thank you," he said softly. "That is very kind of you to say," but Zara could not stop herself now. The question that had been building inside her demanded release. Why were you so kind to her when she treated you with such disrespect? In my culture, such behavior would be unforgivable. Jake considered this seriously, gesturing to the seat across from him in invitation. Zara glanced around the empty diner and sat, breaking another protocol. "I guess because kindness is not something you give only when someone deserves it," Jake said slowly, choosing his words carefully. "If I am only kind to people who are kind to me, then I am not really kind at all. I am just making a trade. I want to be kind because that is who I choose to be, not because of what I get back." This made no logical sense to Zara. You gain nothing from this approach. You only open yourself to being hurt and exploited. Jake smiled, a sad but genuine expression maybe, but I gain something more important. I get to be the person I want to be, regardless of what the world throws at me. If I let other people's behavior change who I am, then they have power over me. They talked for another hour, long past when Zara should have closed the diner. Jake told her about his work, how he found joy in fixing broken things and making them run smoothly again. He spoke about his dreams of someday opening his own repair shop, about books he loved and places he hoped to visit. Zara found herself sharing too, carefully at first, then more freely. She told him she was far from home, studying people, trying to understand them. Jake listened with the same attention he had given Melissa, but without judgment or mockery. Over the following weeks, they continued meeting. Zara told herself it was part of her research, but she knew that was a lie. She was drawn to Jake in ways that frightened and exhilarated her. He showed her his workshop, teaching her about engines and mechanics with endless patience. She found unexpected beauty in how he understood systems and solved problems. Jake took her to a library. Introducing her to his favorite books, they walked through parks where he pointed out birds and plants with childlike enthusiasm. He shared his lunch with homeless people, helped elderly neighbors with repairs for free, and always had a kind word for everyone he met. What amazed Zara most was that Jake had every reason to be bitter and closed off. He told her about past relationships that had ended badly, about family members who had disappointed him, about struggles with money and health. Yet he remained open and hopeful. "How do you do this?" Zara asked one evening as they sat in his truck watching the sunset. "How do you keep choosing kindness when life has hurt you so many times?" Jake was quiet for a long moment. "Because the alternative is worse," he finally said. "I could let those experiences make me hard and cold. I could protect myself by never trusting or caring again. But then what kind of life would that be? I would be safe but empty. I would rather risk being hurt again than lose my ability to connect with people." Zara felt something crack inside her chest. In that moment, she understood what her people had lost in their pursuit of perfect logic. They had eliminated pain, yes, but they had also eliminated joy, love, hope, and all the messy, beautiful things that made life worth living. Her communicator vibrated with an urgent message from her superior officer. "Report required immediately. Your observations of human species are overdue. Recommendation for Galactic Council membership. Pending your analysis." Zara stared at the message, knowing she faced an impossible choice. By all Kelvorian standards, humans were too emotional, too illogical, too vulnerable. They made decisions based on feelings that could not be quantified. They hurt each other and themselves through their attachments. They were everything her people had evolved beyond. But Zara had learned something her people had forgotten. She had learned that vulnerability was not weakness but courage, that choosing kindness despite potential hurt was not foolishness but strength, that emotions were not flaws to be eliminated but essential parts of being truly alive. She looked at Jake, this ordinary human man who had changed everything simply by being himself. He smiled at her, that open, genuine expression that held nothing back despite all his reasons to guard his heart. Zara made her decision. She composed her report carefully, explaining that humanity possessed something the galaxy desperately needed. She wrote about emotional intelligence as an evolutionary advantage, about how humans' capacity for hope allowed them to solve impossible problems, about how their ability to love and forgive created bonds stronger than any logical alliance. She recommended not only accepting humans into the Galactic Council, but establishing cultural exchange programs. She suggested that other species, including the Kelvorians, had much to learn from human emotional resilience. The response came swiftly. Her superiors were skeptical but intrigued. The council granted humanity probationary membership, and Zara was ordered to return home to present her findings in person. Instead, she resigned. She sent a formal message explaining that she had learned more from humans than she could ever teach them, that she was choosing to stay on Earth and continue her education in what it meant to truly live. Jake found her sitting in the diner late one night, staring at her empty coffee cup. She had expected him to be angry that she had not told him the complete truth about who and what she was, but when she finally explained everything, about her mission and her people and her choice to stay, he simply reached across the table and took her hand. "So you gave up everything for us," he said.